Welcome to the Archivist Files, where ordinary people meet unthinkable ends. Real stories of crime, chaos, and horrible fates. It began like an ordinary day, the kind where nothing seems unusual or alarming. A mother and her young child sat inside a parked vehicle on a quiet street, the engine off, the surroundings still. People walked past without noticing anything out of place. The child, full of restless energy like any 7-year-old, moved around inside the back seat while his mother rested in the front. Inside the car, the boy's curiosity drew him toward the power controls. Electric windows are something most kids find fascinating. Press a button and something moves. As he shifted around, exploring and touching the switches, the atmosphere remained calm. Nothing hinted at the danger that was moments away. The street outside continued its routine, unaware of the silent risk unfolding behind the closed doors of the vehicle. At some point, the automatic window began rising, while the child leaned too close to the opening. Whether it was accidental pressure on the switch or a moment of experimentation gone wrong, the glass kept moving upward. Without anyone noticing, his head became trapped. Electric windows, though slow, exert enough force to create a life-threatening situation when no one intervenes. Inside the parked car, with no one alert to stop the mechanism, the situation quickly turned critical. Minutes passed, and the exterior world remained unaware of the unfolding danger. The boy struggled, but the confined space and rising pressure left him unable to free himself. The once quiet vehicle became the scene of a horrifying accident. Yet, from the outside, nothing seemed different. These were the kinds of moments where a single adult's awareness could have changed everything, but help wasn't there when it mattered most. Eventually, someone walking by noticed the child motionless inside the vehicle. Panic replaced the earlier calm as people rushed to open the door and call for help. Emergency responders arrived quickly, attempting everything possible to revive him. Despite their efforts, he could not be brought back. Investigators later pieced together what happened. The mother had been asleep in the front seat, unaware of the danger occurring just a few feet away. Authorities took the situation extremely seriously. A 32-year-old woman now faces severe criminal charges, including accusations connected to the child's death. What began as a quiet, ordinary moment inside a parked car ended as a devastating incident caused by a mix of curiosity, inattention, and tragic timing. A heartbreaking loss that shocked everyone who learned what had happened. But this incident isn't the only one where a quiet day turned deadly. Across the world, another ordinary moment would soon be shattered. It was an ordinary day at the Dunn-Loring metro station in Virginia. The kind of morning where commuters quietly waited for their trains, headphones in, eyes focused ahead. Among them was 50-year-old Harold Riley, accompanied by his dog, ready to step off the train like countless passengers do every day. Nothing seemed unusual as the doors slid open and people began filing out. Riley stepped onto the platform first, holding the dog's leash as he guided his pet behind him. But in a split second, a small mistake turned into a deadly chain of events. His dog hesitated inside the carriage for just a moment, and before Riley could react, the doors began to close. The leash was still stretched between them, not fully inside, not fully outside. Metro train doors are designed to grip tightly, and the leash became trapped. Riley tried to pull it free, but the timing worked against him. Within seconds, the train received its signal to depart. What should have been a routine stop turned into a horrifying emergency. The train began to move, pulling the trapped leash, and with it, Riley. He was dragged along the platform, unable to free himself as the force increased. Commuters nearby shouted for the operator to stop the train, but the motion had already begun. Riley was pulled off his feet, dragged across the edge of the platform, and onto the tracks as the train continued forward. It happened so fast that no one had time to intervene. People rushed for help, trying to alert Metro staff and emergency services. The station, moments earlier, calm and uneventful, was suddenly filled with panic and confusion. First responders arrived quickly and worked urgently, but the injuries were too severe. Riley did not survive. Investigators later confirmed what happened. Riley exited normally, but his dog did not follow in time. The leash was caught in the closed doors, and the train moved before anyone realized the danger. Authorities examined camera footage and procedures, reviewing how such an accident could happen on a modern transit system. How a single second can change everything. A moment of hesitation, a closing door, and a moving train. Riley's death left witnesses shaken, officials searching for answers, and the community stunned by how an everyday commute turned into a fatal accident. If you're following these unbelievable accidents closely, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss another story this chilling. The morning shift at Palermo's pizza plant in West Milwaukee started like any other. Conveyor belts hummed, machines clicked in rhythm, and workers moved through their routines with practiced familiarity. Among them was 45-year-old Robert Sharon, an experienced employee who had worked around the automated equipment countless times. Nothing suggested the day would unfold any differently. Inside the processing area, robots handled heavy lifting, packaging, and repetitive tasks that once required multiple people. These machines worked with precision, swift, powerful, and programmed to operate non-stop. Employees knew to stay alert, but the environment still felt routine. Sharon moved between stations, monitoring equipment, and ensuring everything ran smoothly. At some point during the shift, one of the large automated units encountered a minor issue, the kind that usually required a quick adjustment or inspection. Sharon approached the machine, something he had done many times before. But in modern manufacturing, a single mistake, a brief miscommunication with the equipment, or an unexpected movement can turn an ordinary moment into something catastrophic. As he worked near the robotic system, the machine suddenly reactivated. Whether it was a sensor error, misread signal, or an automatic reset, the mechanism began to move with full force. These industrial robots are designed to lift and press with immense power, far beyond human strength, and once engaged, they complete their programmed motion without hesitation. Before he had a chance to step back, the robotic arm descended. In an instant, Sharon was pinned. Nearby workers heard the impact and rushed to shut down the machine while calling for emergency assistance. The once orderly production line was thrown into chaos as alarms rang and supervisors scrambled to reach him. Rescue teams arrived rapidly, navigating the narrow pathways between equipment and working to free him from the machinery. They attempted life-saving measures, but the trauma was too severe. Sharon was pronounced dead at the scene, leaving co-workers stunned and devastated. Safety investigators were brought in immediately to determine what had triggered the fatal sequence. They examined logs, sensors, emergency stops, and the robot's programming. The goal was to understand whether this was a mechanical malfunction, a timing error, or a failure in safeguards meant to prevent exactly this kind of tragedy. What began as a normal workday in a familiar environment ended in a devastating loss, highlighting how quickly things can go wrong around automated systems. It happened inside a quiet family home in Al Asa, Saudi Arabia, a place where evenings were usually peaceful, with everyone settling in after a long day. Nothing seemed dangerous or out of the ordinary. The family went about their routine while a phone charger remained plugged in near the living room sofa, something almost everyone does without a second thought. But late that night, a small device triggered a massive tragedy. At some point, the charger began to overheat. Whether it was a fault in the cable, a cheap adapter, or a surge in the outlet, the plastic casing reportedly started melting. Within moments, it ignited. A tiny flicker at the base of a sofa cushion quickly grew into a spreading flame. Upholstered furniture burns fast. Once the fabric catches, heat and smoke multiply in seconds. The fire crawled along the sofa, feeding on foam and lint. Soon, the living room was engulfed. flames moved aggressively, sending thick black smoke rolling through the hallways and rising toward the upper rooms. The toxic fumes filled the air long before the fire itself reached most parts of the house. Inside, the family was unaware of the danger building around them. They were asleep, breathing in the smoke that drifted under doors and through vents. In many house fires, it's not the flames that claim lives, it's the fumes. As the smoke intensified, oxygen levels dropped, leaving everyone inside disoriented and unresponsive before they even had a chance to escape. Neighbors later said they noticed the smell before they saw the glow. By the time they realized the house was burning, the fire had already taken over much of the interior. Emergency responders rushed to the scene, battling the flames and trying to reach anyone trapped inside. Fire crews broke down doors and windows, searching through rooms clouded with choking smoke. But it was too late. 7 family members were found inside, overcome not by burns, but by the deadly gas and suffocating smoke that filled the home. Despite immediate rescue attempts and medical intervention, none of them survived. Investigators examining the debris traced the origin of the blaze back to the melted charger and the sofa it ignited. What began as a tiny malfunction, something that might go unnoticed on any other day, escalated into one of the region's most heartbreaking household tragedies of the year. It was a warm day, the kind when people often spend time outdoors, and 41-year-old Ram Vasudev Sathavne decided to climb a mango tree near his home. It was something many people do during the fruiting season, simple, familiar, and part of everyday life. The branches were full, and he made his way upward, focused on picking the ripe mangoes hanging just out of reach. From the ground, nothing seemed dangerous. The tree looked sturdy, the climb routine. But above the branches ran a live overhead power line, something easy to overlook when focusing on the fruit. As Sathavne reached higher, the gap between him and the electric wire grew smaller. A single misstep or shift in balance was all it took for the tragedy to unfold. While stretching toward a cluster of mangoes, he accidentally came into contact with the exposed live wire. In an instant, a surge of electricity passed through his body. Witnesses nearby heard a sudden crack and saw him stiffen as the current overwhelmed him. The shock was powerful enough to knock him unconscious immediately. He lost his grip and collapsed among the branches before falling to the ground. People rushed to his side, calling for help and trying to revive him. Those who witnessed the accident were shocked by how quickly the situation turned deadly. One second he was picking fruit, the next he was unresponsive. Emergency services were alerted, and he was transported toward the hospital as fast as possible. But the electric shock had already caused severe internal damage. Despite efforts to save him, he was pronounced dead before reaching medical care. Local authorities later examined the scene and confirmed that the low-hanging overhead wire, combined with the height of the tree, created an extremely dangerous environment. It was a tragic accident rooted in something as ordinary as harvesting fruit, a daily task that suddenly turned fatal because of one hidden hazard. What should have been a simple, peaceful activity became a heartbreaking loss. If you're following these unbelievable accidents closely, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss another story this chilling. It was a calm day at the family home when 4-year-old Arya Talathi was found unresponsive near the backyard pool. To anyone hearing the initial account, it sounded like a tragic accident. Her mother, Neha Gupta, a pediatric doctor, told responding officers that her daughter had slipped into the water and drowned. It was the kind of explanation people sadly hear every summer, and at first, nothing seemed unusual. Paramedics rushed the little girl to the hospital, but she could not be revived. As news spread, friends and neighbors believed it was a heartbreaking case of a child wandering too close to a pool. But investigators quickly realized that something about the scene didn't line up with how a typical drowning unfolds. When the autopsy report came back, everything changed. Medical examiners found no water in Arya's lungs or stomach, a detail that immediately ruled out drowning. Instead of signs associated with being submerged, her body showed injuries inconsistent with an accident. There were bruises on her face, evidence that didn't match the calm explanation given to police. Most disturbing were the internal findings, indicators of smothering, not water inhalation. These injuries told a story far different from the one her mother had described. Detectives began re-examining the timeline, the condition of the pool, and Gupta's statements. As inconsistencies grew, the drowning narrative completely collapsed. The autopsy suggested Arya had been suffocated before ever being placed near the water, meaning the pool had been used as a staging area, an attempt to disguise the real cause of death. Authorities confronted the mother with the medical findings. What they had initially treated as a tragic accident now looked like a deliberate act. Gupta's background as a pediatric doctor only intensified the seriousness of the case. Investigators believed she fully understood what drowning injuries should look like, and that she tried to mimic them. Once the evidence was presented, prosecutors charged her with first-degree murder, describing the drowning explanation as a carefully constructed cover-up. The community, shocked by the revelation, struggled to comprehend how a routine emergency call had unfolded into a homicide investigation. What began as a call for help near a swimming pool ended with a chilling discovery. The water had nothing to do with Arya's death. What appeared to be a tragic backyard accident slowly unraveled into something far more disturbing as investigators compared the physical evidence with the story they had been told. The staged scene, the conflicting statements, and the medical findings all pointed in one direction. The truth was being hidden. Step by step, detectives realized that Arya had not slipped, fallen, or drowned at all. Instead, the signs showed she had been harmed long before first responders ever arrived, revealing a devastating reality behind the carefully constructed facade. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon. You won't want to miss the shocking stories we have coming next.